Secrets Revealed, a radio drama about child sexual abuse. It contains subject matter that may be triggering for survivors. Discretion is advised.
Most adolescent offenders do not go on to be adult offenders. Sometimes they make a terrible choice because most likely they've been assaulted themselves.
Okay now, class, take out your novels, Kite Runner. Today we're going to talk about the theme. Then you're going to prepare for a paper on a novel. All right, what's the big idea?
Making up for something you did wrong.
Yes. Now, how does the author Hosseini do this? What sentence is repeated throughout the book?
I think it has to be good again. You stole my answer. Anyway, it's actually there's a chance to be good again.
I don't see how though. When there were kids, Amir didn't help him friend, and him friend get raped by Asif. Asif is the rapist's name, right?
Yeah, that's his name. If you see a friend getting assaulted and you don't do anything, how you could be good after that?
Well, it seems as though events are placed in our lives to make us choose differently. But I see what you're saying. It's not completely equal.
Nah.
Juanito, your hand is up. You have a question?
What about Asif? I mean, he was pure evil in the book, but people don't start out that way, and he don't get any better. Does that mean once you do something like that, you can't be good anymore?
It depends on the person. According to a training I did with the Women's Coalition, most people like Asif who commit horrible acts are themselves victims of abuse. It doesn't make it right, but I suppose they would need therapy to realize the consequences of their actions and get help. Then yes, they could be different, but even they will be forever affected by what they did.
I came to tell the inner truths of Leah Caridad and Beto. I'm caught off guard by Juanito. And so you see, the secret revealing is complicated. Juanito never told anyone of his own abuse by an uncle. There are people in his family who know and said or did nothing. His heart yearns to be clean again. But what does he know of innocence when it was taken so young? Truthfully, I struggle still with compassion for him. And this is yet another reason that if you know something, say something. Break the silence for generations to come.
Thank you for listening to Silence Speaks, Secrets Revealed. If you or someone you know has been sexually abused, please dial 911 in an emergency or call the Women's Coalition at 340-773-9272 to find out how you can end child sexual abuse.
Welcome to the After Show Let's Talk About It, a live call-in talk show to continue discussing the weekly episodes of Silence Speaks, Secrets Revealed, a radio drama about child sexual abuse presented by the Women's Coalitions of St. Croix. The stories are fiction based on fact. I'm your host, Shalene Gubbs, and today with us we have Dr. Rita Dudley Grant, a psychologist. The number to call in is 773-3636, that's 773-FM-FM. If you'd like to send us a question or comment because you're not comfortable with your voice being on air or would like to remain anonymous, please send us a private message on Facebook at the m.me/WCSTX. That's m.me/WCSTX. January is National Stalking Awareness Month and National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Yellow is the color of awareness for this month. And happy MLK a day late because we weren't here yesterday. Hope everybody did a great thing and they're doing their part in helping to promote peace in our community. Dr. Grant, thank you so much for coming and being with us. We so appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for asking me, and thank you for doing this very, very, very important work to help our whole community change and heal from this serious scourge in our society.
Serious, and it's like we started it here in September, and it just seemed like it blew up across the planet. Mm-hmm. And you know, whatever we can do to bring awareness. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about the Dr. Rita Dudley Grant.
Well, I don't know who the Dr. Rita Dudley
You. I mean, we are very proud of your accomplishments and what you've done here. So you are very important to us, which is why you were chosen as a guest. We trust your expertise.
Thank you. Well, I am Rita Dudley Grant, actually G. Rita, and I am born in St. Thomas, and I really truly believe that I am a Virgin Islander. My dad used to love St. Croix. He was a lawyer. He had a practice over here, so we would come over. I used to go to the Alexander Hamilton Theater. From time I was a little kid, it had those beautiful red velvet seats.
History lesson, people.
So yes, absolutely. And so it has been a privilege once I finished my training. I'm a clinical psychologist and also got training in public health, and I came back to the Virgin Islands and served in government under the Farrelly administration, and then worked at Virgin Islands Behavioral Services, working with exactly the children that we are talking about today, until it closed in September, and now I am in private practice at Island Therapy.
All right. So she's still available, and we'll get her number so that you can make your appointment after we're done. So some questions. I mean, the episode today was a little bit touchy. It's like Silence said in the end. Sometimes the abusers were abused, and then you struggle. You really struggle with how. So how do you identify adolescent perpetrators, and are they different from adults?
That's a very interesting question, and yes and no. Adolescent perpetrators do go on to be adult perpetrators. The statistics indicate that more than half, almost 2/3 of adult perpetrators were adolescent perpetrators, but it doesn't work the other way around. As your little vignette said, just because you were abused as a child or even a perpetrator as a child doesn't mean that you necessarily go on. So more like a quarter of those that were perpetrated upon themselves then become perpetrators. And the same thing occurs in adolescence. Those that were victims sometimes then, of course, go on to become abusers. And how do you tell the difference? There honestly is not a whole lot of difference. It's very, very, I mean, because people are people, you know, as we say, you're just older versions of younger selves.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. It's one of those silent diseases. Actually, the one thing I would say to everyone is that perpetrators true sex offenders, those who really get into sex offense, are very difficult to detect because they don't tend to be violent. They don't tend to be aggressive. In fact, they tend, because they're much more into grooming, they tend to be very socially appropriate. So you have to kind of be very aware of those that may be a bit too socially appropriate. You know,
Are you listening?
who seem to be such good eggs, and they love kids. And there's always, you need to be mindful of that, because it's about boundaries.
Right.
It's really about maintaining boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries. I mean, we've always had that discussion in here, is how do you tell somebody who's going to be an abuser? They're usually the person everybody likes the most.
Exactly.
You know, so it's unfortunate, but you know, it says a lot about human anyway. So, okay, is there a way to modify behavior, or if you see it, create a change in an adolescent who may have been a perpetrator?
I am so glad you asked that question, because I wanted to research it. And I did.
Okay.
And in point of fact, research shows that there are evidence-based approaches to changing adolescent behavior in this regard. And the One program, it says this particular program is intended to alter norms that foster domestic violence perpetrating by engaging athletic coaches as positive role models to deliver violence prevention messages to adolescent male athletes.
Okay.
And so what we're saying is, if you use role models, coaches, teachers, ministers, community leaders, senators, people that kids will look up to, and you give them a specific script that wants the child to, first of all, recognize that the behavior is not appropriate.
Okay.
I love that ad they have in the movie theater, particularly the one where it says, "Did you see what she's wearing?"
Yes.
You know, that's always a big one. Well, if you're wearing it's too short, it's too tight, then you're asking for it. And sadly, we're talking about 5-year-olds.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's really very bad. But you use these figures, you give them the script, and you do it over a 6-month period of time, the behavior does change, and it has lasting change. What's good about that is that it's a simple fix that we can be using, because we do have role models and the kids are looking, they're hungry for people that they can look up to. If those role models are giving them the message, even in the locker room, you know, even behind closed doors where we're just gonna be boys or whatever, and giving the message that, yeah, if you see something, say something.
Right.
Right? Changing bystander behavior, changing that solicitation behavior, changing all of those behaviors, it does make a difference. So, yes, we can change the behavior if we have as a community stand up and put our money where our mouth is and train these coaches and other community leaders and then implement it in the schools, in the after-school programs, in the churches, you know, wherever we have kids gathering, in carnival troops. You know, it's easy for, you know, the leaders of a carnival troop to set us, especially for the youngers. Okay, today we're going to be doing, and once a month as you're gathering, you're learning to twirl your baton or shake your booty or whatever you're learning, you're also learning how to be respectful and care for others. Infuse the message into our culturally relevant activities.
That would be amazing. So, for next year, Carnival, we do that. The ad that she was talking about is our USVI Says No More ad that's been running in the movie theater. And we have a number of people that are up there talking about we don't want to tolerate anymore. We don't want to do the domestic violence. We don't want to do the sexual assault. The USVI says no more. We're not doing it anymore. And this is a nice follow-up to it. The whole radio drama about what it is, because a lot of people didn't realize what it was. You see famous people like Tim Duncan's on there. Janisha John is the one that says, did you see what she was wearing? There is a little girl that says boys will be boys. Yes. We're not having any more of that. No more late night phone calls. I actually remember this commercial.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's very powerful. It is very powerful.
And you know, all the people that, it was said in Spanish, it was said in patois, you know, it was said, Dr. Olaf Hendrik was there. He was talking about we don't want to lose our daughters anymore. Everybody is doing it. Judy Buckley was there. Maranaya was there. Keisha from the Christian, Rashidi. I mean, all these people that we doing the same thing that you just said have influence in our society, talking about the fact that we don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
We don't want to do this anymore. We don't want any more hurt people. Because hurt people hurt people. But healed people can heal people. Yes. And we want a healthy village to raise our people. Not the village that we don't want that one. We want a healthy village.
Right.
All right, so when we're talking about adolescence, and I think that's the phone. Okay. Hi, I think, yes? And maybe. Hi, welcome to Silence Speaks. Did we lose you? No, I can't hear you. Am I hearing you? No, I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Yes. How I can hear you now. How are you?
Hi, good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, I was listening to you for the show, and I was hearing about trying to change pretty much how we move as a community. The biggest thing to me that has to change is how the adults are kind of separated, not together, and bringing the younger youth in a positive light. As you can see, most parents nowadays have to work either 2 jobs, some even working 3 jobs. That has to be fixed. Education system has to be fixed.
That is true.
These stuff has to be addressed in order to get back the village, because the village is actually now is the grandmother, and the grandmothers can't deal with the kids because, you know, they're up there in age, and the younger generation is watching all kind of stuff on TV and acting all kind of ways. It's to try to get the parents back to actually parenting.
Yes.
That is a good point.
Yeah, thank you so much for that point. That, you know, unfortunately, we have the economic issues that play a role, and we also have drugs that have infested our society, and ends
Yeah.
up with the parent being unavailable for that reason as well, and the grandparent having to try and deal with these young people. And that's why that word you said is so critical, it's the village. It does take all, these are all our children across the board. It's not my child and your child, and they're all our children, and all of us have to take an active role in carrying that message, and effective messages that speak to where the child is, and using the music and so on that can carry that message as well.
Yes. I mean, and we do want healthy villages, and we need everybody's support. So I thank you for calling in, because a lot of times it seems like we're talking by ourselves. But when the community starts to talk and say the same thing that we're saying, that really, really helps. And so appreciate your call, especially from a male perspective.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So, what he said is very, very true. I mean, like, parenting has taken on a completely different role. And, he talked about the grandparents not being able to help to raise the little kids, the little people, because of the spacing. But some of our grandparents are 35.
Well,
And so,
there definitely is that.
so you have grandparents that weren't given a chance to be a child, so they didn't get to grow up to be a parent.
Right.
And like I was telling a friend of mine, sex produces children, it doesn't produce parents.
Right.
And so we really need to start looking at that, because when sexual abuse becomes involved and there's no protection that's there or anything to that effect, sex produces children. It does not produce parents. It also produces a lot of damage if it's not done the correct way.
Well, and that's another piece too. I think one of the barriers that is really big is all of these, the technology, the screens,
Right.
the social media apps and all of this, so that you see particularly grandparents can be at a disadvantage, even if they are in their mid-30s or 40s, because kids 2, 3, and 4 years old know how to get on these equipment, and they are like, light years away. So, I've been in a situation where we're trying to teach a grandparent of a child who has become sexually victimized on social media, and they don't know how to stop, and block and all of this thing. And it really, it raises the stakes, plus the access. I was flabbergasted at the fact that something like 90% of children, by the time they reach the age of 15, have seen pornography on one of their screens.
Yeah.
I mean, I got that from a PA student. I was like, what? It's just stunning.
It is.
All of this stuff, so it's very normalized, and it leads to abusive, violent behavior, because you're looking at it.
Right.
It's ingrained and it's normalized, and it's just the way that we deal
And I
with.
think that that's real.
Right.
I think that that's how
The
real
disconnect is in there.
people have intercourse,
Yes.
and it's
Oh,
not.
yes, exactly. It's very, very sad.
And
very
then
scary.
it comes down to the lyrics of the music, the theme
Oh.
of the music, the
Absolutely.
videos,
Yes.
the movies. We
Right.
don't see a movie anymore now that doesn't include some kind, even in cartoons. I mean, it's starting to,
Absolutely.
the innuendos that they make in everything is just like all of it's all objectifying somebody.
That's it.
And it
Absolutely
does not
correct.
work, because then we can't have a healthy conversation.
Right.
And they will tell you sex sells. I mean, every time I hear that, I was just,
Right.
because sex includes people, and we don't make the correlation. If it's sex, there's a person.
Right.
Even if it's bestiality, it's still a person and a beast.
Right,
It's still a
right,
person. And
right.
so we have to get past that people sell, because
Yes.
that's what we're saying. We
Right.
don't agree with slavery. We
Right.
don't agree with human trafficking. It's Human Trafficking Prevention Month, by the way. We don't agree with any of it, but all the other things that we're doing. And it creates more and more, like you were saying before, Dr. Grant, it creates more and more opportunities for people to become abusive with this behavior.
Absolutely.
And younger
They see it.
and younger and younger.
Absolutely.
And younger, and we've got to do better as a community altogether.
Absolutely.
So, in talking about adolescent abusers, because in the story, what the abuser was 17. He was a teenager, but he also was a victim. developmentally, do they see the consequences of their actions when it's happening?
It depends actually in part on when the initial abuse occurs. Unfortunately, what happens is if it's early on, it becomes, as I said, so normalized, so internalized that you don't even realize that this is not what is supposed to happen. This is not the way that children are supposed to be treated. And a lot of times, I remember the one show that Oprah had with the gentleman who does, the comedian, and he had on who has been sexually abused himself, and they had a show about perpetrators. And it was the whole hour was just on perpetrators, and I remember the chills that went down my spine with this one grandfather that was sitting there in tears describing what he would do with his 5-year-old grandchild, and just set her on his lap and, just go through all of this.
Wow. Hi. Sorry, Silent Speaks.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi. So I know you guys are talking about sexual abuse when it comes to media and what they see on TV and whatnot. But I think one thing you guys need to really, really touch on is how over sexual they do the carnival. Because I saw some pictures this past carnival with little boys, probably 3, 4, 5 years old, holding a woman who has her butt on top of him.
Yes.
And I feel like that is child abuse.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It is.
And we call it culture.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's
so
not
we're
culture.
We're praising this abuse, and we see nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
But we see something wrong with it on TV.
Right, which is what Dr. Grant was saying earlier, that the carnival troops need to have, when they're doing their troops, they need to have the discussion. And we have to be able to talk about it, because we have a double standard. What's good for the boys is not good for the girls, and vice versa. And we really need to change that across the board. Because if we end up having unhealthy boys at 5 getting molested in public and everybody thinking it's cute, then when he becomes an adult and he does the same thing, which is what you were just saying, Dr. Grant, that it becomes so normalized that you don't see the difference.
And he's going to be confused.
Sorry for cutting you off.
So, go ahead.
I also think that there needs to be an age limit when it comes to the Juve troops. Because these little kids were at Juve.
Yeah, when there's no control,
But
Yes,
early in the morning, and it's
Juve.
just, yes.
This is too early for children, first of all. You have them up so early, and you have them tramping down the street. So this vulgarness, women wearing nothing, it's like, that's child abuse.
Yeah, and it is, and the reason that it is child abuse for what you're saying is because what I was saying earlier, it normalizes abnormal behavior. You're
And the
seeing it at 3 and 4 and 5, well then, that's set in stone. If you think about it, the last memories that go are the ones that you have 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
Yeah?
Exactly.
For your short-term memory will start going, mine has already gone bush. But you're going to remember everything that happened when you were 3, 4, and 5, and it shapes your behavior. It really does.
Yeah,
So you're absolutely
definitely.
correct.
Which gets back to us having parents parenting.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because and parenting needs to be not just I have a child. It needs to be I have an active part in the development.
Exactly.
But we also need to. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this. If you're a victim of child sexual assault, you'll have a child at 14 or 15. You can't parent anybody if you're still a child.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you have grandparents at 35. So where does the parenting come in to now say that we're going to set the morals?
And the parents at 35 are still uneducated.
Right, this is it.
As a child, they were exposed to the same thing.
Right. And it's to change the whole mindset. Thank you so much. I agree with you. I mean, we're going to work on some other stuff as well. But we just need to get it out so that people recognize some of the stuff that's going on and not normalize it like we've been doing and making excuses as well.
Right.
Thank you so much for your call.
You're welcome.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And as usual, we're late. So I'll ask you the $1 million question that we ask everybody else, and then we'll wrap up. If you had one wish for the community, when it came to a solution to this problem, what would it be?
It would be that every single person would feel that it is their personal responsibility to change our mindset, to be the change that you want to see.
All right.
Every single person has to take that as a personal responsibility. That I'm not waiting for the leaders, I'm not waiting for the teachers, I'm not waiting for the ministers, I'm not waiting for my grandparents, I'm not waiting for anybody. I am going to stand up. I am going to say this is wrong. I am going to lead the way. That's what I want. I want us as a community. And you know, it's interesting, I want to just say, she talked about an age limit. It's not an age limit. I was in my very first carnival when I was 3 years old because my mother was one of the founders of Carnival. And we went, you know, jumping down the street behind steel pan. You talk about those memories that you have. I remember so clearly going down the road behind with my mother at 3. Obviously, we were not down on the floor gyrating as if we were making sex as we were listening to the steel pan. The issue is not the age. The issue is your value. What is it that you think is appropriate? Is it really right for your little boy to have some woman over him or vice versa?
Right.
You know? So it's really, it's what you model. It's always us. It starts with me, it ends with me.
Right, right.
Sorry, caller.
That's okay. Yes, hello?
Yeah? Sorry, go ahead, sorry.
I don't know if anybody could recall when Minister Farrakhan was speaking with the Senate, and it was a few years ago, and he basically was talking about Juve, and he wanted to know what this Juve was, and when he found out how people are carrying on, and he pretty much expressed that back in the days, people were celebrating the freedom
Amen.
rather than expressing themselves with their body.
Right, it took on a different meaning.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It definitely did.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
right.
until we could get back to being more freedom fighters rather than following trends, then that's the only way we could be saved and help in any situation and any economic or tragedies we're going through right now.
I agree. We
Thank
do
you
need to
so
bring
much,
back to the
Paula.
values. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you. So, be the change you want to see. All of us individually can be the change you want to see. And I'm gonna hurry up, okay, Troy? Hurry up. All right. So, thank you, Dr. Grant. Thank you so much. Thank you, all the callers that called in. All of your input was so much what we needed. Thank you so much for being part of that change that we want to see. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to Silence Speaks, Secrets Reveal, and the after show, Let's Talk About It. The program is funded by a grant from RALIANCE, a collaborative initiative to end sexual violence in one generation, made possible through a commitment from the National Football League. Its contents are solely the responsibility of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of the NFL, though it should. If you need help, please call us at 773-9272. Hi! Okay, but thank you so much. Thank you all so much for listening in. Thank you for making this as successful as it's been. And we're looking at the changes that are coming in. Thank you all for reaching out. We know if you're calling us, the change has already begun. We appreciate you, and our healthy village is on the way. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Oh, next week we have technology and HSI.
All right.
Oh, great.
Tell them what HSI is.
Now